Okay, so just to show you the kinds of data we're going to be using in the general kind of trajectory for this demo. Okay, so here we have our o2 users.zip file. This is the about 1.5 gig file of all the check-ins of all the place IDs on Weibo in the PRD. Okay, and we're going to work with this file directly to derive that information. And the first thing I want to do, like with the other demos, is to limit the amount of point files I'm going to look at. Okay, just like we did with heat maps or interpolation, we don't want to look at the whole PRD. We could, but it would take a really long time. So for the purpose of the demo, I'm going to again limit the types of points I look at, so I narrow my sample for the analysis. This is even more important with graphs because if you think about connections, to find those connections, you basically have to search through the data twice, right? For each point in the data set, you look at every other point in the data set and check if it has a connection. So these things also scale as square, right? So what I'm going to do is start this demo is to actually use the same file that we used for the for a previous demo, okay? And this is going to be the set of Weibo restaurants in Shenzhen and Hong Kong. Okay, so if we go to the attributes here, we see that it's about 12,500 points. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is actually export some of this data because the zip file contains place IDs, right? And it contains user IDs for check-ins, but doesn't contain geographical data. And this is an issue that some of you emailed me about. And this requires you to link the two data sets. Basically, we have this data set for all the check-in locations, which has latitude and longitude information. And then we have the other data file, which doesn't have latitude and longitude, but has all the check-in information. We can basically link them by the place ID, which we have in this column. Right? So the first thing I want to do is, because I don't want to work with the whole set of Weibo locations, I'm going to export the data just from this subset. And this is one way that you can actually use QGIS to narrow your data set. Okay, so I've made available the whole PRD, and then you can use QGIS to just select geographically the points you want to look at. You can also filter by category. Once you have this final data set of just the food and drinks, we can re-export this data back as a data file to use in Python. Okay. Before I do that, I want to just delete all the categories or columns that I don't need. All I need is the place ID to link to the zip file, and I need the latitude and longitude information, right? So what I'm going to do is, if I have this file, I'm just going to save out a copy of this shapefile. And I'm making a copy because the next thing I want to do is go into the attribute table, click on edit, and just delete all the columns that I don't need. Okay, so I'm just keeping, oh, there's one left. So I'm just keeping place ID, latitude, longitude. Once I click save, you remember that that shapefile gets written over. So if you need that original file with all the other information, you want to make a copy. So I'm going to click this pencil, hit save. So now I have this map with all the places, and I have the IDs, latitude, longitude in this table. And now I can actually export this table back out as data. And there's two ways to do this. The easiest way is if I find my shapefile here. This DBF file, or it's this one. This DBF file is the data, and we'll actually read into Excel. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do it. The problem is Excel isn't very good at saving formats that are easy for Python to read. Okay, even if you save it as a CSV or a text file, it's going to have some junk in there that becomes a problem for Python. So the way that I like to do this is I like to export the CSV text file directly out of QGIS. Okay, that is also a plugin. It's not by default installed in QGIS. But you can get that plugin by going to Plugins, Manage, Install Plugins. And it's called, Quick Export. Okay, so you can get this plugin from the plugin manager. And Quick Export is just a really basic plugin for taking a shapefile and exporting the attribute table as a range of different file types. Okay, so once you install this, it'll give you these icons, and you can basically export the shapefile as CSV, HTML, PDF, or other formats. All right, once you're here, click on this options, and then make sure semicolon is turned on. This is just, you can use whatever you like, but in my case, to keep things consistent, I'm always working when I'm working with data in Python, I'm working with text files that are delimited by semicolons. Okay, so I'm going to change that to semicolon here to make sure that that file I create fits that format and I can easily use it in Python. Okay, and then I select my shapefile and just click this CSV button. This will ask me for a location. I'm going to save it into this directory. And you want to basically put all the files you're going to be working with in one directory. I'm going to just say this is Shenzhen, Hong Kong, food, POID. Okay, so once that is saved, it should be here. This is a CSV file I just created. It comes out as a text file, which is good. This is sort of the way I like to work with data as well. I can open this in the text editor and you see what I got. It's just literally the attribute table from the file. It has all my place IDs I'm interested in and the latitude and longitude. I'm going to use this subset of data to start to build out my graph.